I have the opportunity when dealing with these people in these cases, if they're taking HCG and things are really great for 3-4 weeks and then they start to go south, to look at their blood work. And in every case, the serum estradiol has gone up by between 15 and 30 picograms per milliliter. So this weekend, I got this comment on Saturday's live stream. It goes, Ryan, thanks for all the great content. You don't think or have clients getting desensitized by too frequent administrations of HCG? I spoke with Ryan Root, and he believes that if you inject HCG every day or every other day, you will downregulate or desensitize the LH receptor. Now, what usually happens is there is such a thing where if people are dosing HCG every day, even if it's like 200, 250 IU every day, which probably is too high of a dose for most individuals, it does seem clear that in order for adequate sexual function, ejaculate volume, testicular size, and general kind of sexual function relative to the testicles and how they interplay with the penis, etc., you don't really need a whole lot of HCG. I mean, most people don't. But there is this phenomenon where people will dose HCG every day, and then effectively some of the benefits of TRT, like the erection quality, libido, sensation, start to go downhill. And that would lead someone to believe, well, HCG initially, when I brought it in, made all these things better. And now it's making them worse. And people think like it must be desensitization of the luteinizing hormone chorionic gonadotropin receptors. This is really what we're talking about here. And though the scientific literature does point to a degree of this happening, which could be extrapolated to humans, the real answer is actually all right, boys, before we start the video, look, Cortex Labs is a TRT guidance, sexual dysfunction resolution, and performance optimization company. You got a range of different products ranging from the source list. I mean, anything you can think of anabolic-wise, including high-potency DHT gel for a lot cheaper. Just get the source list. I put it together, and you get the source list for basically everything that you want. Before this, I was a specialist in the pharmacology of nootropics. I consulted executives and CEOs on the use of them, and after all that experience, I built one. It is strong, and it is down in the description of this video. Lastly, I'm a coach on TRT protocol restructuring. This is what I do, whether it's a one-off call and a protocol generation, or you have sexual dysfunction or any large-scale issues related to hormones, ongoing one-on-one packages. You can book it for any of that stuff in under a minute at livecortex.com. Now, on the topic of HCG-induced desensitization of the Leydig cells, again, what we're really talking about is the luteinizing hormone chorionic gonadotropin receptors, or the LHCGR. We have a couple different papers on this phenomenon of HCG inducing desensitization of the Leydig cells. This is titled Early HCG Induced Desensitization in Leydig Cells, where the abstract basically goes, the early mechanism of HCG induced downregulation of its own receptor, this luteinizing hormone chorionic gonadotropin receptor, as well as steroidogenesis refractoriness in rat Leydig cells to gonadotropin stimulation, which would be HCG in this case, have been investigated. They did a single injection of 5, 12, 25, 50, and 100 IU. So these are not high doses of HCG in rats, and induced within 8 hours Leydig cells desensitization. Interestingly, the higher the HCG dose there was, the less significant the receptor loss was. What desensitization really means is not that the receptors become like indifferent to the stimulation of HCG. Downregulation actually means a loss of receptors, right? But people have to understand that receptors are constantly being degraded and then reformed. It's not just that you have static receptors, okay? Look, if you ask ChatGPT this, it does have an explanation for some degree of desensitization that happens, and it basically really comes down to, as you might imagine, continuous occupancy of the receptors, in this case in the form of HCG, does cause some degree of desensitization. And look, there are some mechanisms by which this can happen. The receptor sites can effectively, in response to overstimulation, not be as responsive and not produce as much CAMP. And there's an inhibitory factor here as seen in this image, and it's basically B-arrestin. So if you go back and look at this image here, this is essentially what happens when some degree of desensitization takes place. B-arrestin kind of gets in the way of the HCG binding to the luteinizing hormone chorionic gonadotropin receptor. Given large HCG boluses, this is sort of the practical implication here, like 5 5,000 IU at a time or more can leave Leydig cells unresponsive for 24 hours, even though the receptors remain measurable. But you could probably avoid this by using pulses, again, in some semi-infrequent dosing of HCG. Now, interestingly, this does not happen, by the way, just so folks like have a full picture of this. This doesn't happen in the fetus, like in male babies, like little young male baby Jesuses. This is a paper titled Leydig Cell Desensitization by a Human Chorionic Gonadotropin Does Not Occur in the Human Fetal Testes. They ultimately concluded is that fetal Leydig cells are able to respond to sustained concentrations of gonadotropin. Okay, so this doesn't happen when you're a fetus, when you're a baby, when you're when you're a sweet baby Jesus, but it can happen when you are an adult. But here's the thing. Then you got posts like this. Anyone else quit HCG? You know, like, listen what this guy says. He goes, I feel ever since adding HCG, shit has just gone south. I felt good on TRT alone. Okay, yeah, this happens. People feel like perfect on just TRT. It's actually more common than people think, but I hated how quickly my balls shrank. You know, nobody wants that necessarily. I love my big balls, as do my partners. It feels like I will never get dialed in. I've had mood swings, anxiety, depression, weight gain, lethargy, and erectile dysfunction, okay, boner issues since starting HCG. To those who have quit HCG, how did you feel after? Better, worse, reduced libido, anything? Then you got this comment in the comments section. Yes, I've written about this on here before. Yes, it doesn't work for some of us, usually those of us that aromatize too much. And this isn't necessarily true. People that aromatize very normally still have a problem with HCG on any dose of testosterone above 100 milligrams a week. Guy goes, for me, I was murderous, depressed, anxious, paranoid, and ED. Okay, you're going to see there's a common theme with HCG, like for people that just can't tolerate it. This isn't as a result of receptor desensitization. It's something else. Inconsistent sleep, a weird blurred-eyed feeling, and that's just the main stuff. And then he goes, it's all estrogen related. I've dropped the HCG and taken AI, and things are way more consistent. I'm still trying to find the perfect balance, but I think this will require losing the last little bit of body fat. Now, here is the bottom line of the point that I want to make to people. If you consistently dose HCG, you're not only increasing Leydig cell stimulation independent of testosterone's aromatization to estradiol, but you're then changing the serum of estrogen too. You have more serum estradiol and you have more, intratesticular estradiol. And what people end up doing in these cases is dosing HCG, say they're dosing 250 IU every other day, which is kind of a modest dose. I mean, that's kind of a good dose of HCG, and that might be a dose of HCG that some people need and works really good. But for some individuals on just 250 IU of HCG every other day, guess what's going to happen? They're going to stimulate estradiol, intratesticular estradiol, more serum estradiol. It's going to mess with penile-mediated nitric oxide signaling. It's going to inhibit dopamine in the arcuate nucleus of the brain. And then people are going to have this response where they feel like there's less of a positive, consistent response as they did when they started HCG, like now that they're 4 weeks or 5 weeks into continuously dosing 250 IU of HCG every other day. And then they're going to go, HCG stopped working. You know how many times I've heard, like in coaching, HCG stopped working? Must have been a desensitization thing. It is in the literature. TRT YouTubers say this. Thankfully, I have the opportunity when dealing with these people in these cases, if they're taking HCG and things are really great for 3-4 weeks and then they start to go south, to look at their blood work. And in every case, the serum estradiol has gone up by between 15 and 30 picograms per milliliter. And you know what that does? That causes all the side effects, all the effects that people think are Leydig cell desensitization, which are a lack of sensation in the penis, full-blown ED, anxiety, testicular shrinkage. You know what causes testicular shrinkage? I mean, don't we all know what causes that? Well, it's the fucking estradiol creeping up to the pituitary, telling it, don't secrete any. Even if you were secreting a very little bit on TRT of LH and FSH, don't secrete any. You'll notice the higher the doses you go on testosterone, the more shutdown you're going to get. Whereas if you're on like 119 milligrams a week or something, it takes a Anavar for anabolism if you're not anabolic enough, you're going to notice you need a hell of a lot less HCG. Let's go back to this comment, all right? Ryan, thanks for all the great content. You don't think or have clients getting desensitized by too frequent administration of HCG, do you? I spoke with Ryan Root, and he believes that if you inject HCG every day or every other day, you will downregulate desensitize the LH receptor. Again, we are talking about the luteinizing hormone chorionic gonadotropin receptor. And no, I do not believe that with every other day administrations of 200 or 250 IU of HCG, you're going to desensitize that receptor. I just don't believe that's going to happen. Will there be some degree of a lack of responsiveness? Perhaps. I mean, that's not measurable. No one's ever proven that. Perhaps. There's a few studies on it. But the real answer lies in this guy's experience. He goes, I definitely need HCG for better sexual function, but sometimes I don't feel like I'm getting that benefit, and I take a small break, maybe 4 to 6 days off of HCG, and when I do introduce it back, it seems to work much better. Now, why is this the case? Well, I've run this experiment before. I looked at my serum estradiol. It was 51 picograms per milliliter. I removed HCG for 2 weeks, and after like day 4 or 5, as the estrogen started to go down, sexual function got substantially better. But then after like week 3 or something, testicles shrunk. Sexual function was still like okay, but it may have been hit or miss. It just wasn't continuing to trend in the right direction. And then I added a little bit more HCG and ended up at a lower dose at that particular point, and things were good. But what happened there? Like what happened there? What happened when this guy removes the HCG, and when in my case I removed the HCG? What exactly happened? Well, you stopped getting consistent stimulation of the Leydig cells to produce estradiol. That's what happened. And then the serum total estradiol goes down. You get less of that like testosterone action blocking effect, because make no fucking mistake with all these proestrogen people, estrogen blocks some of the effects of testosterone depending on some of the ratios. Your estrogen's too high for where your testosterone is, then you're going to have somewhat of a low T experience on TRT, and it's fucking because of estrogen. All right, look, this is my response to this guy, and this is ultimately what I want to say to people. Literature can suggest that it does happen, like desensitization of the Leydig cells. We've seen in literature. It doesn't happen in the human fetal testes, but it can happen in adults. Then I go, but not to the point where you don't get any benefit. Like if anybody's like unclear about this, when this is happening, and you might have like some lack of sexual function from continuously dosing HCG, whereas in the beginning it made you feel like good and you had better boners or better libido or whatever, you'll notice that your testicular size stays the same. Yeah, the testicles aren't shrinking when this is happening, are they? Then I go, what does happen, however, is intratesticular and serum E2 rises the more you use HCG. This is true. I've proven it with blood work, and I hope you've proven it with your own blood work, which desensitizes the male organ, blunts libido, and gives you ED, which often is misinterpreted as Leydig cell downregulation, which is really luteinizing hormone chorionic gonadotropin receptor downregulation. The HCG is still working, albeit not to the fullest extent if you're fucking bolus blast dosing HCG, as seen in some of the studies, but it is still working. Keep in mind, receptors are degraded and remade ongoingly, okay? The receptors in the testicles relative to HCG are not like just some static set of receptors. It's just doing otherwise unwanted things. Also, the rise in E2 would technically make shutdown even harder to tend to, speaking from the pituitary's perspective. So there's that. Again, on TRT, like we don't make a ton of luteinizing hormone and follicle stimulators, so they're usually pretty bottomed out, but they're there. Like there's some amount of it. It's very, very minute amounts of it. But what controls that more, and what would shut that down even more, even if it's in this super depleted state, but you got a little bit of that going on and it's preventing some testicular shrinkage, as you're going to find on lower dose TRT, like 120 milligrams a week, and a lot of people don't end up needing HCG and the testicles stay fine, is that the higher the E2, like when you go on higher doses, you go on a fucking cycle, the testicles shrink faster. I mean, you got actual atrophy of the testicles much more substantially and much more rapidly. There's studies on this of bodybuilders and atrophy testicles over time. I go, it works better after a break, meaning the HCG, because you ceased the constant E2 production from the Leydig cells. And guess what? The same phenomenon happens when people are over their range, let's call it, on E2 with their testosterone dose, and then they skip several doses and sexual function and sensation comes back strong. Bottom line, it's E2. And in all my years of doing this, like, I just want to kind of give this proclamation that what I've come to figure out over time is that, yes, that is the answer. It is a lot less likely that when you take HCG, you get some libido benefit or erectile benefit or sensation benefit or load size benefit or whatever, and then you continue dosing the same HCG and some of those benefits go away, namely like sensation, erection quality, and then you start having blunted libido. It's not that the HCG stopped working, okay? Because the testicles are probably the same fucking size. They're not shrinking. Yeah, you might have a little bit of receptor downregulation, receptor loss, but they're constantly being remade. What's actually happening here is the same stuff we all see happening when estrogen gets too high for a guy. Like, what happens when estrogen gets too high, boys? Well, you lose libido. Okay, sensation gets worse. It's fucking harder to climax. You might have erectile dysfunction, right? That's usually one of the things that happens. And then you have some of the other estrogenic side effects. How could it be, in this case, like receptor downregulation of the testes if you also have anxiety and maybe like a little bit of itchy nipples or nipple sensitivity? It's estrogen. People will, like, because the dose of testosterone is just too high for them, if they're not going to use an AI, they'll skip doses. You'll see this in the forums every fucking where, man. Like, oh, I skipped a dose. I skipped my weekly dose, and my libido, which has been kind of mad the last, like, couple months or whatever, has come back really strong. What explains that? Well, what explains that is estrogen dropped, okay? It's really simple. People are trying to make this a lot more complex than it needs to be. Like you got luteinizing hormone chorionic gonadotropin receptor desensitization, you got Leydig cell, and people will say that. I've had clients be like, yep, when I was taking HCG, I got desensitization. And my answer is like, sorry, brother. No, you fucking didn't. You may have had a little, but what happened was the estradiol came up over your range, and the symptoms that there happened are exactly the symptoms when estrogen goes over your range just on your TRT dose. And then the moment you get that down, when you skip a dose or you take an AI if you can tolerate them, take some Primobolan, take some Masteron, whatever, or lower your total testosterone dose, but keep the HCG dose the same, then everything gets better. And you're going to see in the end, though there might be some, receptor desensitization to some minor degree, which then fluctuates and is transient in the literature, by the way, ultimately the problem is, in fact, estradiol. The truth is, dude, I consult people on TRT for a living for years, and estrogen is always the problem. It is always the problem. I'm not looking at like some of the benefits of estradiol and then like letting that sort of cloud my understanding of what's happening and block me from diagnosing like erectile issues, as an example, or libido loss. And the real cause of it, it's estrogen, dude. It's just like, it's so simple. It's, people are trying to like make this complex and infuse their own theories about this as if they're just super smart and have discovered this new cutting edge era, of information relative to estradiol. And boys, we need it to be at 120 and we get all these cardio benefits and it even makes the libido better. No, it fucking doesn't. You are a male, okay? You're a male. Your estrogen level should be around 32 picograms, 35 picograms, 40 picograms per milliliter, 25 picograms per milliliter, and that's fucking it. And guess what? Because before TRT, you had those levels of estradiol, or maybe even lower. Like a healthy male has got levels of estradiol that are 25, 35, maybe 45 at the highest. It's more than enough. It's more than enough for what you need estrogen to do for your body. You do not need it to be 75. You do not need it to be 100. There is no additional benefit. In fact, there's fucking clotting risks the higher estrogen goes. There's hematocrit risk the higher estrogen goes. There's prostate cancer risks the higher estrogen goes. There's neurological stuff, mood stuff, depression, anxiety, mental health risks the higher estrogen goes. Boys, if you're taking HCG and it's doing something positive for you and then it stops doing that positive thing for you, 99 out of 100 times, it's because estrogen went up higher than it should be for your body. And that is the bottom line. All right, boys, as I said in the beginning, look, I'm a coach on TRT. I mean, this is where I've gathered all of this information over the years. I've pretty much seen every situation. Usually know after a detailed fact-finding call and sometimes looking at bloods exactly what needs to happen. And so hire me. If you need your protocol restructured, this is what I do. I am the guy that focuses a lot of my energy on fixing people's hormone protocols. You can hire me for a one-off call where I will redesign your entire protocol and create an online document with your new protocol so that you can move forward and feel good and function good and have great erections and good libido and feel fucking phenomenal and be anabolic. I mean, all the things that we want TRT to do. But if you've got serious sexual dysfunction and otherwise issues, whether you're on hormones or not on hormones, some of this takes multiple protocol iterations, and I need to kind of be with you, hear feedback, work with you on an every other day or an every third day basis, continue to architect a really, really bulletproof tailored protocol. That stuff takes time. So we've got a 1 month, a 3 month, a 6 month, and a 1 year ongoing one-on-one coaching package. Book that in under a minute at livecortex.com. If you want to go at this stuff alone, just by source list, I mean, this is a vetted list of trusted sources for anabolics, ancillaries, and hormone hacking agents, including high potency DHT, oral DHT, DHT gel, all the erectogenic stuff, test of all esters, every anabolic you can think of. Listen, this is a powerful resource. You can get it down in the description of this video. And lastly, if you need a nootropic that kicks ass, considering my history before talking about hormones on the web was like consulting CEOs of big banks using brain performance enhancing compounds, I built one. It is called Torque. It is not for the faint of heart. It is super fucking strong. So choose wisely, but if you want to try it, it is down in the description of this video. It is going to kick your ass. It is very powerful. All right. Brother. It has been an absolute pleasure hanging out with you. I hope you guys had a great weekend. I hope you had a great, happy Easter. I did. And I hope, the same for all of you. Please like the video. It makes a huge difference. Anything you want to do for me for all the free content, I don't ask for a lot, but it would mean the world to me if you would just hit the like button. Sub to the channel. I'd love to have you as a subscriber. We do breakdowns on all of this stuff all of the time, previously and forever in the time continuum. Kick ass, rock on, have a great day, and I'll talk to you boys in the next one.